New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
It's Ebro in the morning, beautiful Laura Stiles. We got Rosenberg, presidential hopeful, Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, 2020.com. Now, we're going to do a lot of math today because the fact that you have hats that say math, I love it. And why do you have those hats?
Well, the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian guy who likes math, and so that has sort of stuck. And then there's even an acronym we're working with, which is Make America Think.
I love Make America Think.
That's a great thought. 38 times 17.
Give me a minute.
Okay, I see.
Wait, he's not like a math genius.
He
just
was a mathematician.
I'm not a robot.
No, he has hats that say math.
But you said the hats.
And he likes math.
Okay.
I do.
But you're not like a calculator in your head. You just
I'm not Rain Man, no.
How many marbles are in this jar? Why that particular, was it inspired by the fact that we're living in a time where there's so little thinking, or has this sort of always been your logic about how you see the world?
Well, so I spent the last 7 years or so running an organization that I started called Venture for America that helped create several thousand jobs around the Midwest and the South. And so to me, one of the driving forces, if not the driving force behind Donald Trump winning in 2016 was that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. And so I was like, why are we not talking about that? So that's where this all started, because imagine being the guy who'd created thousands of jobs and then seeing that we're decimating hundreds of thousands of jobs, Donald Trump wins, and then no one's talking about why Donald Trump won, in my opinion. So that's the genesis of the campaign.
I've definitely seen, if you're paying attention, I mean, mainstream news obviously gets lost in the nonsense, right? And I think all of us do because, whether we like it or not, Donald Trump is entertaining, for better or for worse. He's a comedian. I think he does stand-up comedy. I think it's all a skit. It's all a game. It's all a hustle. It's all a whatever. And he's getting away with it currently. But I do believe people are talking about the jobs and why middle America lost jobs. I don't believe people are talking about the solution. And do you believe you have a solution for the loss of jobs?
I do have a solution for the loss of jobs, and it's to pass a freedom dividend where every American adult gets $1,000 a month, free and clear, starting at age 18. What this would do is this would pump hundreds of billions of dollars into the consumer economy and enable millions of Americans to make transitions.
All right, let me be a MAGA maniac for a second. Hold on there, math man.
Come on, they don't all talk like that.
How are you going to come up with $1,000 for every American? How does that work?
What's the math on that?
Yeah, like where's that money coming from?
Yes. All right. So right now you have to look at who are going to be the big winners. We're in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of the country. So who wins with AI and self-driving cars and trucks and new software? It's Amazon, Google, Facebook, Uber. And how much did Amazon pay in federal taxes last year?
Like $0 or something?
$0. They paid less in federal taxes than any of us. And so you got to look at that and say, okay, is that their fault or is that our fault? It's like they have accountants and lawyers trying to minimize their taxes, and they high-five each other, be like, we got to zero again, guys. Great work. Here's a bonus. And we're looking around being like, where's the money? Where's the money? Meanwhile, they're sucking $20 billion of commerce a year out of Main Street America. 30% of malls are closing. 30% of Main Street stores are closing. And what's the most common job in this country? Retail, that's right. The average retail worker is a 39-year-old woman making between $10 and $11 an hour. So her mall, her store closes. What is she going to do? They pay zero taxes. So people ask, how are we going to pay for this freedom dividend? What we do is we join every other advanced economy and have a value-added tax that gets the American public a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Facebook ad, every robot truck mile, and we return that money to the American people. That would generate $800 billion in new revenue, which combined with current spending, economic growth, because you put this money in our hands, we're going to spend it. Cost savings on things like incarceration, homelessness services, emergency room healthcare, and then the fact that we're making our population stronger, better educated, healthier, mentally healthier, is enough to pay for a dividend of $1,000 a month.
So clearly corporations aren't going to like this, right?
I'm friends with a bunch of the corporates, and some of them don't like it, for sure.
Of course.
But then some of them are like, you know what? Like if you're sitting in an office with them, which I have, or speaking to them at a conference, which I have, and say, hey guys, you automating away the jobs? They're like, yeah, we are. And then you're like, how do you feel about that? They're like, not great, because they're not evil people. They're just doing their jobs in many ways. And then if you say, would you be willing to take a haircut to help keep America whole and strong? About half of them are like, yeah, I would.
It's the presentation that often comes off wrong and why these things don't get done?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in a time in our society where it's like easy to just like throw rocks at people. It's like, oh, like they're bad. But really what's bad is this dehumanizing economic system that is handcuffing everybody, where it's turning us all into economic inputs. It's why we have ideas about why we have to turn coal miners into software engineers, which makes absolutely no sense when you think about it. It's that if people don't have economic value, then they have no human value. And so then you're like stretching to be like, oh, well, how do I find economic value for you when a lot of those solutions don't actually work on the ground?
And so a lot of what you're talking about with, what did you call it? The freedom, what'd you call it?
Freedom dividend.
The freedom dividend. This proposal, how many, other than the few guys that you've talked to, how many responses or feedback have you got from any of the Amazons, the Facebooks, or anything now that you're putting this on a national platform?
Well, I've got over 100 technologists who've endorsed me and are supporting my campaign personally, but a majority of Democrats support universal basic income or the freedom dividend, and this is not my idea. The primary proponent of this was Dr. Martin Luther King in 1967 in his book, Chaos or Community. And that last year, before he was killed, he was going around giving speeches saying, we need to have a guaranteed minimum income in this country. We need to team up with people who are being exploited across all categories. And then, unfortunately, he was assassinated the following year. So this is not Andrew Yang. This is Martin Luther King. This is Thomas Paine. This is Milton Friedman. This is Elon Musk. I mean, like, a lot of people are looking up and saying, you know what? We're in a race we cannot win. We're in a race against the machines that we will lose on an epic scale. There are 3.5 million truck drivers in this country. Some are listening to this right now. My friends in Silicon Valley are working on trucks that can drive themselves, that they say will be on the highways in 5 to 10 years. So what then happens to the 3.5 million Americans who drive trucks for a living, or the 5 million plus Americans who work in truck stops, motels, and diners that rely on the truck stopping every day?
So it just feels like the goal appears automation everywhere. Like, is that the goal? Like, it's almost like people are racing for this to be some sort of horror movie apocalypse where we are literally taken over by robots. Not to be dramatic, but it really does feel as if that is the path.
But
that
we
are
do
on
see it because
extent.
they want to save money. Look at it. I remember I walked by a McDonald's and there was like 2 people working behind the desk. It was nothing but a bunch of little like stands that you could just order and get everything done yourself.
got rid of
There's
the
one
tellers.
person that's just kind of just handing you the food.
So what other places do you kind of want to fight back against technology sort of ruling everything?
Well, there are very, very clear studies that show that we've had a massive surge in anxiety and depression among teenage girls in particular that is completely consistent with when they got smartphones and started using various social media apps. And the engineers at those social media companies say, again, flat out, we have designed your smartphone to become a very powerful slot machine and dopamine delivery system.
It's an addictive machine.
Yeah, because their financial incentives are like, hey, the more I can get you to engage, the more advertising money I can squeeze out of you. And do I care one iota if I end up inducing depression among tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of young Americans? Well, like, there's no money in not depressing you, but there is money in getting you to stare at this thing. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to have a department of the attention economy that's run by a design ethicist named Tristan Harris, whom I'm friends with, and say, look, we got to clean up the slot machines that are like hypnotizing and depressing our young people.
How do we do that?
Well, first, I become president. Thank you all. Thank you, voters.
Congratulations.
There you go. Andrew Yang, 2020. Go check it out.
And then I say, hey, guys, your financial incentives clearly drive you to extreme behaviors. And if you were generous, you'd say it's not your fault. You're just like captive to the almighty dollar. So congratulations, we're going to free you from the almighty dollar. We're going to bring Tristan in and say, hey, guys, now you have some other incentives, which is not to depress the heck out of tons of Americans. And that's going to be your new mission aside from maximizing your profits. And if you ask a public company like Snap or Facebook right now to adopt this behavior, they literally cannot, because it would be illegal for them to not illegal, but it would be against good corporate governance to not maximize their shareholder value. Like, the only way they
Wall
can
Street, they got to do the numbers. They gotta
yes,
get the
you could
numbers.
legitimately fire a board of directors being like, hey, you guys didn't maximize shareholder value. You cared too much about the kids.
It sounds crazy, but real.
But that's our system. Like, our system right now is designed to worship the almighty dollar.
So what would they do though? Like, take me through what we would do. how those things would change potentially so people are less likely to just be obsessed with their phone all the time.
And the great thing is Tristan's actually a guy who sat there and was like helping design this stuff in the first place. So he would say, okay, right now, like you are saying like if the person has engaged with your app for this amount of time, the next time they do, they need a dopamine hit. And say, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the guidelines on like the timing of the reward mechanisms you have. Or it could even be that like, a message pops up and says, hey, you've been staring at this phone or this app for 3 hours. You should find a human being or go outside.
Go get friends. Phone shuts off.
Right.
Go get friends. Because we are having massive widespread effects on our youth culture. And it's showing up when you get to college campuses. There are record levels of anxiety, depression, and even suicidal tendencies that people have said they've never seen before.
I want to get. Go ahead, Laura.
Well, speaking of young people, I read that you wanted to lower the voting age to 16. Why?
Yeah, so if you look at it, there are a few really good reasons. Number one is you actually can imprint voting behavior quite early. So the earlier someone votes, the more likely they are to vote forever. Number two, our electorate skews old right now, and so our policies end up skewing somewhat old. And the third thing is that at this point, we need to do all we can to engage young voters as soon as possible. And if you lower it to 16-year-olds can pay taxes. So in a way, if you're saying, look, you can pay taxes, but you can't vote, that's not consistent with the way we've done things in other spaces.
And it's true. And by having the electorate skew so old, you're having people make decisions about our country who aren't going to be here to deal with the repercussions of what they're talking about.
Yeah, young people look up and they're like, like I have to deal with climate change. I have to deal with all this mess you're leaving us. And they feel rightfully sidelined. And so, if we just start the voting process a little bit earlier, we can transform American high schools where seniors and juniors are like, holy cow, like I'm going to vote. And they can have political conversations. We could transform the youth culture.
Speaking of school, make community college affordable for all. And then you said control higher education costs. How do you plan to do this?
Oh, man, like I'm so amped up about this because I had $100K in school loans myself. I used to call them my mistress. It was like writing a check to like another town every month, being like, I hope they're having a good time over there. So I know that right now we're up to $1.5 trillion in school loans that are like this massive crushing anchor on top of young people in particular, where everyone's like living in their parents' basement trying to pay off these phantom loans. What should they be doing? They should be buying their own homes. They should be starting families. They should be starting businesses. They should be doing things that drive our economy forward. This $1.5 trillion in school debt we have is new. It was less than $100 billion in 1999. It's gone up more than 15 times in 20 years. So you have to look at why is that? Why is college 2.5 times more expensive than it was when I went to college?
And why is that?
It didn't get 2.5 times better. They didn't make it like 2.5 times more awesome.
And it doesn't equal to inflation either.
No. I mean,
Not even close.
Like if you look, and I have this in my book. I have a graph about education inflation, which is like up here, and then healthcare inflation, which is also up here, and then other inflation, which is like down here.
Right.
And so the reason why education is so expensive, it's not professors, it's not even buildings, because when you build a new building, you actually can get rich people to donate money to put their name on it. What it is it's administrators. The ratio of administrators who don't teach to students has gone up 150% in the same period of time. That costs have skyrocketed. So what you have to do as a society, first, I'm going to forgive a ton of the school loans. I'm just going to say, look, like, what would we rather have our people doing? Servicing loans forever or moving our economy and society forward? Second, I would go to the colleges and say, look, you're all dependent on federal loans for, to exist, more or less. You have to bring your administrator to student ratio down to what it was in the 90s. And we'll give you 5 years to do it, but you got to do it. And they're going to look up and say, we can't do that. It's impossible. And then I'll say, I think you're going to figure it out somehow. And then they would do it, and then they'd realize it doesn't actually impact the student experience.
Well, it feels like they're on the take if you're just hiring more administrators. It sounds like a badly run business if you have so many your administrator to student ratio isn't where it needs to be.
Well, I've run a national nonprofit that I started, which is sort of the same picture as a lot of these universities. And the very natural inclination is to say, look, we just need to hire more awesome people. And there's nothing wrong with the people you hire, but then over time you just end up with a lot of people. and that's what's happened to these universities. They become very complex administrative and bureaucratic organizations, and so they feel like they need all these people. But over time, it becomes a giant tax on the folks who are getting the education.
It's interesting, too, because in college, if you're really being honest about it, how many administrators do you need? Like in high school, you can almost make a much more reasonable claim for why you need administrators because you're literally still dealing with people who are like kids. So you need a certain amount of people that are around to literally
College,
keep
these are
order.
adults.
College, I feel like if my college experience, and I went to University of Maryland, which is a huge state school and is still better priced than a lot of others, but it's gone up dramatically since I was there. I barely interacted with administrators. You felt like the entire place could have run on professors and students. People who are in college are trying to get their education. They're not children who need a million vice principals to keep everyone
That's why I
in
said
order.
I think they're on the take. People are getting jobs at universities, right? State-run schools or whatever, and it's because they can. Because the school's like,
Right,
yeah,
we can find something for
we
someone.
need to have you on staff. You know how many people I know who are on staff at a university
right.
that might teach 4 classes a year, and they're just like on staff.
4 classes a year means you're doing a lot. That's better than, I think there are people who are just on staff.
Oh, we're talking about non-teachers here.
Yeah, they're on staff.
Yeah. Then they'll hit you though with getting rid of jobs.
Well, that's the reason why the freedom dividend is so vital, is that we have to make big transitions in this country. We're getting rid of a ton of jobs for, again, like the biggest employment categories in the United States are retail, administrative, and customer service, which includes call center workers. AI is going to be able to do the job of a call center worker in the next several years, and there are 2.5 million call center workers still.
I
in the
get
US.
robocalls ad nauseum now. So I mean,
I'm going to outlaw the robocalls. What I'm talking about is when you call the customer service line, and then right now, if you get a bot, you're like, give me a human. I hate this bot.
Right.
But then in about 3 years, the bot is going to be indistinguishable from a human. You're going to call and they'll be like, hey, what's up? What can I do for you? And, and then you'll be
So
like,
scary. Oh my gosh.
yeah, but then that's going to eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs. Food service and food prep, you talked about McDonald's just rolling out self-serve everywhere. Truck driving and transportation. Trucking is the most common job in 29 states. And then manufacturing is still number 5. And all of these things are getting automated away very, very quickly. So it's not just that we have to start eliminating the bureaucracy. And this is the danger we're in, is everyone's looking around. Everyone's looking for islands to jump on right now. There's like a collective freak out. And so if you look at the universities and you're like, hey, guys, you have to feel some pain too, then they're going to freak out too. But frankly, the rest of us are already freaking out. So it's not right for there to be this university system that's, again, essentially a tax on our people. What have they done? They just gouged our families. Families have felt they have no choice but to take out outrageous loans that are guaranteed by the federal government to pay for it. And then they're stuck with these loans forever.
And then they don't even pay the athletes. The athletes make them billions of dollars at some of these schools, and what do they get?
They get an education, but I'm with you that it's a fraud. We need to have big time NCAA athletes get paid. We need to have essentially for-profit entities that are aligned with the big universities that are making millions, tens of millions, and you can see it very clearly in the coaches' salaries and the athletic directors'
It's
salaries.
very easy to see.
Yeah, you know who the highest paid person in the state of Connecticut is? All of like the public
Women's
organizations.
basketball coach?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's the UConn basketball coach.
What's the basic salary for a coach?
Basic.
Well, it depends. If you're a D1 school that makes a lot of money, that you're talking about lots of money, $1 million. Up
Nick
to
Saban makes what, 10,
yeah, up to as
15
much as
million?
$10 million.
Oh my
if you're
God.
A year.
they're the highest paid. The highest paid person. The highest paid person.
He's a state
in
employee, right?
Several
Technically.
states is the coach. Yeah, that's common.
Easy.
University of Alabama is a state school?
Yeah. Yeah, so you have state employees making like $8 million a year or whatnot, and then be like, oh, it's a nonprofit. Like that's tax exempt. You have broadcast rights. The one that I find the most egregious, you have video game likenesses. Like there's like some 18-year-old kid who's being told, shut up and like play. You're getting education.
You're getting an education. You're in a video game. I'm in a video game. I'm right there.
Yeah, it's insane. And also, let's be honest, the education you're even capable of getting. Like, tell me this week that Auburn, Texas Tech, Virginia, and Michigan State, those kids are getting a lot of education this week when they have to prepare for the Final Four on Saturday?
This
Yeah,
week.
seriously.
Yeah,
This month.
This whole month? The whole season?
I had a conversation with this guy who worked at, I think it was EA, one of the big video game companies. They made the college football game, NCAA. And then they said, we want to pay the players. Like, we're going to give them a free copy of the game and like $100, $200 each because it's like the right thing to do. And the NCAA said no. And then they said no to the point where now that game doesn't even exist anymore. Like, just because the company was trying to do right by the players,
Give them a little something.
give them a little something. NCAA was like,
$200.
no, that would make them professionals. Like, blah, blah. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And the EA executives were like, also like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, because it
So
seems
that's a different type.
That's crazy.
That almost is criminal. It's almost criminal when you think about it.
Yeah.
You're stealing.
And so people have asked me, it's like, hey, man, you're running for president. Why do you care about NCAA athletes? And I'm just like, look, what kind of message are we sending to our young people that we can exploit the heck out of them for whose gain? The coach, the athletic director,
Well,
this
it's the American
institution.
way exploitation. Come on, it's part of the fabric of who we are.
And
Free labor. Come on.
that
Make
is
America great again. That's right.
that's what we need to change. We need to make this economy work for us. Because if the economy doesn't work for us, what's the point? Right now, GDP is going to go to record highs. Self-driving cars and trucks would be great for GDP. Meanwhile, Americans are literally dying younger. Our life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years because of drug overdoses and suicides. They've both overtaken vehicle deaths as causes of death in this country for the first time in history. And so we're just chasing the wrong measurements. We have to change our economic progress measure to include things like our health, our mental health, how our kids are doing, how our environment is doing.
So let's talk brass tacks here about this election. Realistically, in this crowded field, how good a chance do you think you have? What is your plan? What goals do you need to reach by what times to really have an opportunity to compete in the primary?
Yes. So according to the internet, I have an approximately 14% chance of winning the nomination. I am fifth right now. I've raised over $2 million, and most people have never heard of me. And 99% of my donors are small donors. The average donation is only $18. And what am I running on? I'm running on a platform of giving every American $1,000 a month. It's like people look up and be like, we can do that? And be like, yeah, Thomas Paine, Martin Luther King, Milton Friedman,
But when you say
in
it, I
one
don't think
state of
it
Alaska.
doesn't sound realistic. It's too good to be true. Where's the money coming from? Like, what's the number again? What's the math? Give me the math. $1,000 a month. Everybody
$1,000 a month. Headline cost is about $3 trillion a year.
$3 trillion. Where's that come from?
Yeah. But then you look at it, our current spending on income support programs is about $1.5 trillion. And so
that's welfare, income support. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And so it substitutes out, not entirely, but it reduces the headline cost from $3 trillion to $1.8 trillion. And then you have this $1.8 trillion. You get $800 billion from the value-added tax that falls most heavily on the Amazons and Googles and Facebooks of the
big
world.
companies.
So then you're at $1 trillion. You get $400 billion from all the economic growth from putting $1,000 a month into our hands that we spend, and it circulates the economy. You end up generating a lot
that
of new
$4
tax
billion
revenue.
will take time because it'll have to start.
Oh, yeah.
You'll have
You
to-
probably have like
the government will have to front the cost.
Yeah, you front the cost for like a year, but the economic growth happens pretty quickly because the money goes right into the economy. And 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 57% can't afford an unexpected $500 bill. So the money's going to get spent. This money's like going to go right back into bills and car repairs.
Oh,
you've
they're
been
going
putting
to
off
waste
and
it,
everything else.
Andrew. They're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to buy drugs. They're just going to run around here and be frivolous. Don't you know what you're doing? You're making America lazy again.
Well, the beautiful thing is it's our money. Like, we're the owners and shareholders of this country, and we need to make the economy work for us as fast as possible. Because, again, we're in a race we can't win. If we continue just to see ourselves as inputs into the giant capital efficiency machine, we lose on an historic level, and you can already see it. So to your question, Rosenberg, about my chances of winning, I'm on CNN's Town Hall next Sunday, or the 14th, at 8 p.m., right before Game of Thrones.
How many people are in that? Or is it your own town hall?
Oh, that town hall is just me. It's just
Nice.
me and the people.
So you got
me
one.
and the people.
All right,
yes.
I'm going to give you a bit of advice right now. Big advice here. And I already have faith in you to do this. One of the town halls that I watched, I'll be honest, it was Elizabeth Warren's. I just felt that every question that was asked was simply a segue into giving a talking point. And it really made me miss Barack Obama, who was...
Human being?
Say whatever you will. Yeah, you can love Barack Obama, you can not love Barack Obama, but his ability to hear the question that was being asked and deliver a thoughtful answer to that person is so important. And so I think that's a real opportunity. Obviously, you must be excited about it. CNN Town Hall on a Sunday night before Game of Thrones, 8 o'clock, an opportunity to really connect with people.
Yeah, man, I don't know any other way to operate except to listen to people and answer the question.
And not just say a random talking point that's sort of unrelated to the question that was asked.
Yeah.
Because that happens too often. And I think one thing that's been underestimated about Donald Trump, we've talked about this a lot, Shani and I have really spoken about this, is Donald Trump's ability to, even though we may hate the things he's saying, engage people And for as irregular a person as he is, and I mean that in so many ways, whether
You mean
it's
like his waistline, his hand size, his hairstyle? Is that what you mean by irregular?
skin color,
Skin
all of
color,
those things.
all the things are
No,
irregular.
I actually didn't mean any of those. But I'm glad you mentioned them though. But what I meant is even the fact that he was born rich, is the tycoon that he sort of, a lot of his Midwest constituents seemingly hate. Even though he is that, he has an ability to connect to people because he extemporaneously talks. He may only have a vocabulary of like 112 words. I'm pretty sure my dog knows more commands than Donald Trump has vocabulary. But he is still able to use that limited vocabulary to talk easily and off the top of his head. And I think it's really critical that we have candidates who are able to talk ad nauseum and hopefully make sense. And then when it comes down, if you make it that far along, be able to compete with a bully who can use his words in ways that are tough.
Well, I hope I come across as a pretty normal human being everywhere I go. Like in this interview, like I hope you don't feel like I'm just segueing into some.
No.
No, I think you and I say this with all due respect, and by all due respect, I really mean, as Rosenberg often says, really respectful. Most of the time when people say due respect, they're about to disrespect.
really
About to
bury it.
disrespect you, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's in America, it feels like individuals like yourself are so intellectually above the average voter who's running around out here, who I feel like halfway pays attention. And I haven't even got to like Donald Trump's fans, right? I feel like
You're talking about the average person.
I'm talking about the average person who is trying to wrap their brains around the math. How does the math work? And that's how we all get duped, is because we don't understand the math. We don't understand how these things work. And we're entrusting in an individual like yourself to go out and get it done. Me, I like when my president is saying things that are like beyond my comprehension and I have to go do research. Most people are turned off by the amount of intellect that you're sharing right now. They're like, I can't even keep up with this guy. And they're probably turning off the radio.
Because they listen the whole way. You guys are
all
still
the
with
way
us.
through.
No, and that's why I'm bringing it up to you, is because I love what you're talking about. You get to ask the room when
Yeah.
No, he's been hyping you up for
I've
weeks.
been like, yo, his hat say math. Yo, I just want to talk to him about numbers. Most people aren't. That doesn't. I hate that I feel smarter than my president.
We
I
joke.
love
We even
feeling
joke.
like
We even joke like the whole like, can I have a beer with him? Which I think is the most ridiculous thing. Like, why are we focusing
I
on
don't want to
that?
have a beer with the president. I want the president to do his job. I don't want to have a burger. I don't care if he eats corn dogs. I don't care.
Well, you do. You do.
No, I don't. I really don't.
You do.
I would like to have a hamburger with Bill Clinton. But
Yo, they
well, he's a
screamed.
vegan,
Yo, remember how you screamed at me? Barack Obama was in the White House. Me and him got into an argument. He was like, "Why come we're not going to the White House?" A lot of people. I was like, "I don't want to go to my White House to meet Barack Obama. I don't. I didn't. I want to just do the job, man. Like, come on, man. Let's go."
You know, one of the things I've suggested is that when I'm president, I will appoint either Oprah or The Rock to be the head of the culture, and then they will congratulate the sports teams and pardon the turkeys and do all the things that presidents do on that level.
That's great talk, right
Love
there.
it.
Because like you said, it's like my job's to try and get
Fix
people.
problems.
Like you should be too
Money.
busy then to hang out with a turkey on November 23rd. Like you should be busy.
And our presidency has morphed into this weird conglomeration of jobs, which and it didn't used to be that way. Like what happens is like a president decides to do something, and then the next president has to do whatever the last president did, and just keeps on like stacking. So that's to your point. It's like I think the sports team would rather meet Oprah than me anyway.
I can say that with affirmatively that yes, that is true.
Yeah. So see, I'm just trying to add value.
All due respect. You say here, you want to legalize marijuana, pardon all nonviolent drug offenders, all of them, and you're going to do it on 420. The first thing I thought when I read this was Andrew Yang smokes weed, because the fact that you want to do it on 420 means you smoke weed.
What it means is that I know people who smoke weed.
Yeah. Well said.
Okay.
Including yourself.
I'm like, okay.
You're not a weed smoker.
No, I'm not.
Never in your life.
And, I was a pretty geeky Asian dude, and so my parents did a pretty good job of of keeping me steering clear of certain things that I thought would be.
It's okay if you smoked weed. It's completely fine.
Yeah, because you're obviously not against it.
Oh, I'm not against it. I have many friends who
partake.
And the other thing too is that at this
You
point, a
inhaled,
lot of
but you didn't.
No, you smoke, we didn't inhale.
Smoke, but you didn't inhale.
well, the other
You
thing
rolled
is,
it. I'm a great joint roller, but I don't actually like. Come on, give me something. I like breaking it up. I'm good at breaking up the
So
weed.
why are you so passionate about this? Like, why do you want to do this?
Well, a lot of it is that you have to compare it. Like, I have many friends who are using marijuana for medicinal and pain relief purposes, and it's much less lethal than, let's say, opiates that are killing 8 Americans every hour.
And it's not destroying your kidneys and your liver.
Yeah, so it's like, what are we talking about here? It's like, we really going to criminalize something? The other thing is our administration of the marijuana laws are clearly deeply racist, where if like you look up the people who are actually jailed for marijuana-related crimes, you have a feeling they're like the vast majority are going to be African American. So those are the reasons I'm passionate about it.
But you had never rolled a blunt before. You don't prefer Dutch Masters over Phillies.
I cannot speak to what my preference would be.
Oh, were you ever a drinker? Are you a drinker or no?
Alcohol kind of made me drowsy, which made me less of like an enjoyable time. So,
Which means if you smoked weed, it'll probably have the opposite
Oh
effect.
my
You'll
God.
wake up and
All
be
right.
like
So what's your
bright
vice?
and shiny.
Are you addicted to ice cream? What is it?
Yeah, I do like ice cream a lot. In terms of my vices, I used to like to gamble a fair amount because I am Asian, and Asians.
Whoa, they hold down the casinos out here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason they advertise in Asian languages in Chinatown all the time. Like, you go
What
to a
was your
casino.
game of choice when you gambled?
I played craps, even though I never had much luck at it. And then blackjack, obviously, you start like counting cards and doing what you can to like
Math.
use the math to your, and
Is that legal?
Yeah, it's legal.
You can if you can just try your best to think through it.
If
you're
they
like,
catch you, they're gonna.
not want you there.
They don't want you in their casino. Have you ever been caught counting cards in a casino and banned from a
Get this
casino?
controversy out right now.
Let's handle it.
Let's squash it right now.
Because there will be video of you being dragged out of Trump's Caesars in Atlantic
especially
City
if you
or
ever gambled in a
something.
Trump one, you're in trouble.
I have not because I'm too slick. I'm too good.
Right. It's never been caught.
I like that.
Never been caught.
Now, do you have any,
respect
on a serious note, the
fact that he admitted cheating and gambling and not to smoking weed is pretty monumental. I just want everybody to know that.
I don't
He'd
consider
rather admit that I've.
Have you ever cheated on the golf course?
No, I definitely am not.
By the way, I can't wait to read. There's a whole book by Rick Riley coming out about Trump the golfer, just about his cheating exploits as a golfer.
No.
All right.
Yeah, I can't wait. So it sounds phenomenal.
Can you just clear up this whole like circumcision drama that we've been hearing?
Oh yeah, so arbitrary. So I responded to a Twitter question. It's like, hey, how do you feel about routine infant circumcision? And I was like, I just said like negative on the practice because I have 2 young boys, and when they were born, my wife looked into the medical data and found that the health benefits of routine circumcision are like somewhat unclear. And so I said, look, my stance on this is like parents should do what they feel is best. I've been to my friends' brisses, like, anyone who wants to circumcise their kids for religious or cultural reasons, like by all means. But I do think that the medical case for it is not exactly like ironclad rock
You don't
solid.
have to get a circumcision when the child's born. You
No,
can
it's your
say
choice,
no.
right?
It is your choice, but it's being presented to many new parents as like a thing to do or routine
Because
practice.
they could charge you for it.
Probably that there's something to do with it. And so I was just like, look, people should get more information and not feel like there's some sort of like requirement.
Okay.
That's all. The only place I was, and so like people now think I'm some kind of like anti-circumcision
Right,
zealot.
right,
Crazy. That's like your issue. That's what you're running on.
Amazing.
Do you have what concerns, thoughts on the fact that like being an Asian American man running for president is super interesting because the Asian American man in American culture has sort of been fascinating to look at over the last 50 years, comparatively to the way other men have been treated culturally. Like the amount of, like for example, you can even look back on what Linsanity meant in New York and how big a deal it was.
That was a big deal to me.
I'm sure. It was a big deal to me. It was a big deal.
Well, because the Asian athlete, the Asian male sex symbol, the Asian.
It's just something that for whatever reason we progress in society. But yeah, there has been a limited amount of Asian men that have been accepted as sort of heroes in American culture. Is that a thought in your minds at all and something you'd like to change?
Well, my identity is not a central aspect to my candidacy. I'm running to solve the problems that I think are tearing us apart. I got Donald Trump elected and are just going to take off. Like AI, when it hits, it's going to be faster and more vicious than most anyone believes in terms of its effect on jobs. So that's what I'm focused on. It's not lost on me that I'm the first Asian American man to run for president as a Democrat. I'm a very proud Asian American. My wife and kids are Asian American.
Your parents are from
Taiwan, and they met in graduate school at Berkeley. My father is a physicist with 69 U.S. patents for GE and IBM. And so,
you're so smart.
well, no, I'm just saying, like,
No, I'm just kidding. They sound brilliant.
That's pretty awesome.
but I was,
My dad has patents. I mean, he patented this one move where he just lays literally around on the couch all day watching anything about the Kennedys that airs and kind of like scratching his feet. So, but keep going.
my dad had that move too. Maybe we should have gotten him a patent
See, his
for that.
dad's got more moves.
Yeah, you know what? Apparently your dad has the patent.
I grew up this geeky Asian kid, just watching like the 3 TV networks we had, but deeply American, felt very, very lucky to be here. And I want my kids to feel the same way. And right now I despair that they're going to be left something of a train wreck disaster. So that's why I'm running for president. But, to the extent that some people are excited about my candidacy because I'm Asian American, I mean, I'm excited about that too.
Do you? I'm sure because you're Asian American and from Taiwan, you're gonna have the Taiwan Chinese political relationship. I'm sure people are gonna be asking you your opinions on that. The tariff war, right? Which because you're a presidential candidate, whether you're Asian or not, you should have an opinion on that.
Sure.
What is your opinion on that?
There are real imbalances with the U.S.-China trade relationship. I think the trade war was the wrong way to go about it, in large part because who suffers really are American businesses and workers, as well as
farmers, all of them.
And I've been to Iowa now 10 times, and there are a lot of pissed off people in Iowa because they're like, what the heck? Like, this tariff ended up changing the prices and changing the game on us. And as someone who's run a business, I would be furious if I made plans months in advance and you changed the prices on me. And then I had to fire people and disinvest and do all the stuff. Like that would make me so angry. And that's the way a lot of people in Iowa feel about this. So that to me was the wrong move. If you're going to do that, you have to give people literally years notice, being like, hey, this tariff goes into effect in freaking 2021 so that you could start to adjust. So you need to try and remedy the imbalances, but punishing people on both sides is, in my opinion, not the most productive way to get there.
And position on this border wall talk. Where are you at?
I think we need to have a secure southern border. I was looking into whether there were some measures we could adopt, and a lot of it's really old-fashioned border security. There are parts of the border where building a wall might make sense. But there are a lot of parts of the border where building a wall makes absolutely no sense, and so there's like this.
There's already some,
and there are already some walls down there, like various
yeah.
points. So the walls become more of a symbol than a solution, which is really the problem right now in our country. Is that we're arguing over symbols instead of solutions. So there is a need to help secure the southern border. I am for a path to citizenship for people who are here and undocumented.
dreamers.
I mean, not just the dreamers, but just the people who are here and undocumented. Because you have well over 12 million people who are here and undocumented, and you cannot pretend to deport them. It makes no sense. You would destroy regional economies. You'd separate families. It's it's logistically impossible. The current status quo is that we just ignore them, and then occasionally they get into car accidents and go to the emergency room and have problems. And there are massive problems associated with the fact that we have a lot of people in this country that we don't know who they are. So the third path, which is the path the Republicans used to be for until they realized that it was politically bad for them, was that we need to create a long-term path to citizenship where if you pay your taxes and you have a clean criminal record, then you can become a citizen over time.
And it became politically bad for them because it would have been supporting Obama.
The person who freaking led that thing was Marco Rubio. Before then, he turned around and got scared because he was paying a political price. So Rubio saw that this was the right path. The Republicans used to be on board with this before they were overrun by this anti-immigrant fervor.
Which was what, the Tea Party? Was that the Tea Party influx and all that other shit?
It was like the Tea Party's main thing was like around taxes and financial, but it was tied together, yeah.
The Trump administration has made some aggressive moves in the Middle East. Now, Trump's recent stance on the Golan Heights, moving the embassy, and there are a lot of people who don't feel that America is an honest broker in the Israel-Palestine relationship, and then there's some people who feel that America doesn't do enough for Israel. Where do you fall on what the relationship between the U.S. and Israel should be.
So, I mean, Israel's been a longstanding important ally of the United States, and that should continue forever. That said, to me, the original impetus towards a two-state solution made the most sense. And to the extent that we can get them moving in that direction, that would be phenomenal. I get the sense that at this point, it's really more on Israel to make determinations as to what it wants to do. Because right now they're, they frankly have much more control over the situation than the Palestinians.
Yeah, and everybody tries to make it really, really seem like the Palestinians are in some sort of power scenario.
Right, like it's some sort of equal footing for a war when that's just not the case.
His name is Andrew Yang.
What's the website?
The website is yang2020.com, or you can just Google my name, Andrew Yang. But we have to build a new economy that works for human beings as fast as possible. And,
what you're saying is you want to make America think.
I do want to make America, because Americans are really smart. Americans know what's up.
I mean, it's yet to be proven.
We're going to find out together. But thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Andrew Yang, 2020.com.